Hi, my name's Ken Masterson. This morning discussing with a colleague the aspect of people being basically one-dimensional in terms of doing microbiome analysis is a major problem because people basically don't see what in front of their faces. Example is looking for a single bacteria dealing with chronic Lyme. Of course, they assume it's going to be the same bacteria as Lyme, and my understanding of the data is saying it's not. It's a group, it's a microbiome dysfunction. Similarly with COVID, long MECFS, it's all people looking at one magical solution, one magic number. Why? Because it's easier for the human to understand a single one-dimensional line. My background is heavily in mathematics and very multi-dimensional mathematics. So instead of a single straight line, I think of a plane, a space, or even a space over time, or even a n-dimensional fact. So I tend to look at things slightly differently, and the result is because I'm accustomed to viewing it that way, I sort of say, oh, wait a minute, it's to me, it's obvious. To somebody else, it may not be. Okay, so now, from that, got discussing, and the result was I realized I could make a demonstration which you can go and take a look at yourself. And just it's basically R squared of microbiome prescription.com, nice and simple name. You go in and you go and you select something, like example, type in search for bacteria. But what I'm going to do is look at one here, and here we have a particular bacteria which you can see things increase or things decrease. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, okay, show me the interaction network. And it gets, there are so many interactions you can't really deal with it. Let's go back. And instead of doing everything is say, okay, let's just look at the family that interacts. And I had a threshold of correlation coefficient of 0.3. Let's raise it to 0.4 and let's see what happens then. Now we have a much better time. And what we have here is right here is the one we're looking at. Notice nice and red. The size of the circle in general is the relative amount in the microbiome, except for the base one. The base one I've had to make big and stand out because some cases it's rare. So you see the three things that directly interact with it. And one of the things up here, which if you zoom in, you can see that it is, oh, this particular family interacts with it. What's another family that interacts with it? Down here, and we'll find it is another one, methylsilanes. And we could actually, if we get lucky and hit the point, there we go. We can see there. And if we go back up a bit, and what's the third one that interacts? And if you go down here, it's okay. So we have the three families which has influence on this particular subspecies. Nicely shown, and as you can see, the thickness of the line reflects the degree of impact. Gray means increases, red means decreases, and we have everything sitting right there, and you can drag and go on. For example, this one, you see it is a larger one, another one, there it's sitting there, and just go to your heart's content. So that is basically a good chunk of the thing. Now we can go over and take a look at other things. For example, let's suppose we want to look at not a probiotic species but a different one. Okay, now I'm going to actually go over to the NCBI taxonomy parameter and do a go to find it. And what we have here is something has been renamed in the last probably 10 years, but people are still constantly referring to the old name. And you can see what it is Pleutelicopri. It has been renamed. Oh joy. And actually see it has a taxon number there. So I can go back to here, just directly type in the taxon number, so relationships. And we have relationships here. And what we can now do is do the same thing which we did before. We can go in and say, let's look at the relationships. We don't have just mass of green like we did before. and you can see where we are down here. But let's go back and let's go and restrict it to what Genesis impacted. And there we have, once we get scroll down far enough, there we have the Genesis impacted, and you can see that there's only 3 which has impact and 1 which has a lot of impact. That is, if this one goes up, then that one goes up. And then other things, Protella is there, and Lila is there, and you can see what the interaction is, and you can see what those ones interact with. And in this case, basically there's nothing in common. Sometimes you find that there is combination flowing between there. So that is example there. We can go back and take a look at something else. That's, for example, let's go and look at one of my favorites next. And I'll go in and type have I or haven't? No, I figure I had a probable spelling mistake. There we go. And you can use percentage signs for wildcard, and we go there. So there we have what the relationships are there, and basically largely connected with whatever there. However, let's see what the interactions are, if any, for it. So we're going to go up, and we're going to go and let's say actually do 3 deep. And let's just go by genus. Let's see what comes up with genus. And what do we have? We have, whoops, we have nothing. And there's an error there which I need to take care of. Let's do it free all ranks. We have a problem there. Okay, and I need to track down why we have a problem there. Let's actually drop it to 0.01. And now it spins, and it spins and spins. I did ask 3 deep, so it's going to be an ugly chart. Okay, and actually we come up with nothing there. So, oh, and it's still spinning. So it's still processing, and once the spinning here ends, then we're rendered there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save there, and we're going to go back to the prior one, and we're just going to do 2, and we're going to do 2, and let's do 0.2. Let's go and down and take a look, and we have, oh, we only have 0.3 came up with no data. Let's do 0.15. So let's go up here and let's see things which are 0.15. Again, if you make it something that doesn't exist, you may get an error message until I can fix that. Let's try 0.15. There we go. And now we see everything that has a relationship to it. And there is nice and easy to identify the 3 things. And you can go to your heart's content and play around. Again, it shows the relationship, what influences what, not bacteria by bacteria, but the whole picture. Now, in terms of coming up with suggestions, I use the whole picture. That's a mathematical problem to me. I'm happy with mathematical problems. For somebody wanting to understand things, this can be useful, provided you don't get yourself overwhelmed with the details. But it does show that there's a lot of interactions that should be considered because that's the nature. It's a living environment, just like human population is, and you have different groups, you have different things, and they all interact with each other, and you cannot do complete single isolation of a single individual out of context, randomly picked, and understand what's going on. You have to look at the greater picture. Okay, that's it.